what is the main issue in the debate with capitalism versus socialism is empathy for how the other person is thinking or feeling. And what happens is that when we don't have that empathy for that regard, is there's an accusation of how the person is maliciously doing something to cause harm, and that becomes a pushback, whether they're maliciously doing or not. It becomes a pushback, and then the audience sees the pushback, and then they think you're uncaring. So there's a difference between militant ignorance and actual ignorance, and I would say likely, which is the case of most fraudulent activity, is that the majority is actually just ignorant, not militantly ignorant. So militantly ignorant denotes that you have a malicious intent upon causing harm to somebody, in lying to them over and over, to press them down, laughing about it behind the scenes. Ha ha ha! Look, we've got them through our lies. And it's like a kid in a candy store or a kid in a grocery store. The parent where the kid's they're crying to get their way. They want a piece of candy. The parent's not giving them candy because they're crying. Okay, but they're whining in the store. They're causing a scene. Now here's the thing, is that if the kid realized that if they straightened up and acted right, that they would they'd probably earn the candy just for being good. They'd probably get it, But the kid, sees getting the candy as love rather than the honor of, earning the candy as love. And so what happens is they seek to overwhelm the parent and try to dominate them. And if they can dominate the parent in getting their way, well, they can just run the table, get whatever they want. However, when they get what they want, because they've earned it maliciously, they don't feel that love, and it's really an empty victory. It's in the same way when people talk about socialism, even when they make their millions or whatnot through capitalism, is that they have an empathy that they want everybody to be on the same level. They want it. They want that even plane for everybody. The thing is that the even plane is through character, and it's through discipline, and it's hard work, and that's the even plane. It's equality of opportunity. And if you make equality of outcome, well, you don't have any millionaires. You don't have any billionaires. You don't have people having the incentive to create anything of value or maintain it properly, because they're going to get paid the same either way. And so, there isn't a Mark Zuckerberg, there isn't an Elon Musk, there isn't a Tony Robbins. There's no reason to develop character further other than to overthrow the socialist government. It's just, there's no reason to. So there's, with the kid in the grocery store, the parent has to learn to be tough. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And if the tough don't get going, then, they get clobbered by inappropriateness. And when people rule, like when that kid grows up, for the parent never standing up to them and seeking, to love that child, not just be stern with the child, but also be loving with that child, to help the child understand that it's not proper, and here's why, and to walk them through and help them, get that empathy to understand that they're gonna feel much better when they earn it, and that's gonna come with the parents earning the child's respect from keeping a discipline with their own word. And if they say they're gonna do this for punishment, or they're gonna walk them out of the store, but they do it, And by the child seeing that faithfulness in the discipline and in the love of a parent or anybody, is that they gain that trust in it. The reason we trust God is because we see a faithfulness not just in His wrath, but in His promise. And we see that through obedience to Him. And when we don't have obedience to Him, we see a lack in that department, and as a parent. So, we have to understand that the majority of the people out there fighting for socialism are not militantly ignorant. They're ignorant. And the more we paint them as militantly ignorant, the more people paint them as militantly ignorant, the more you're going to get pushback. It's the same reason when when Jesus was asked after, I believe it was after Sermon on the Mount, which neighbor do I love? Phrased by a guy, and Jesus didn't have the time to go dive deep with the person to get to know who he was, to move forward in an articulation of, because he may have even known who the guy was trying to not care about, but instead he did a three-dimensional move, or 4D chess, as some people would say today. He threw it over back onto the other person. He said, who do you think your neighbor is? So if Jesus had pointed out who it was, or tried to, he'd get some blowback, he'd get some pushback as to, the reasoning behind, why it is that he shouldn't have to love us. It had been a blow-up argument. It would take him forever for this guy he's really just trying to not care. So rather than that, he allows the other guy to reconcile with God. And the more we put on God's shoulders, rather than fight with our siblings, the better off we're going to be. Because what happens is, when people try to reconcile these things with God, like, how can socialism ever bring about Facebook? You're literally watching this on social media, and social media could not exist without capitalism. It couldn't. It's not going to continue to be maintained without capitalism. The fact that social media brings a somewhat freedom of speech. It's not really freedom of speech because of censoring, but it allows somewhat for a freedom of speech and articulation of ideas to come out, and for people to connect in such a manner. You don't have that same kind of connection in other countries, where the government steps in and says this isn't allowed, and so it's a very unique thing for capitalism and Bill of Rights to allow something like this to take place. Now, if you want to say that you want to go into socialism, well, socialism would define that, we get to define the message, and so if you believe that you're going to get more freedom in socialism to be who you are, to make what you want to make, or be able to have the freedom to go out and be a great entrepreneur, or to carve your own path, you're flat out lying to yourself, or you're being lied to. And so how do you reconcile that you're going to get something for free, the candy, without earning it? And how is that going to make you feel? Because it's certainly, I don't think you're going to find any kid who gets that candy is going to start behaving better. You're not going to find that when the kid in the grocery store gets the candy, he's going to start behaving better. It's not going to happen. So when you give out, the candy to, you're essentially giving that free stuff for people who haven't earned anything. The victory is so empty that it depresses you, and so dependency upon free things will continue to depress you. So unless you lift yourself out of that and have a sense that you're going to be tough, and you're going to get going, and you're going to move, you're going to do something, unless you have a willingness to do that, you're going to be depressed, and you're going to be dependent upon somebody else. Because once you're dependent upon somebody, it's like being dependent on a drug from a drug dealer. Then you're beholden to that drug dealer, if they want to raise the prices, or if they want to do this or that, because you're hooked. And if you're hooked, so then you get mad because you don't get it at the same price, or you get mad because you have to do this or that when you didn't have to do it before to get the same value that you were getting. So something to think about, because in life there's nothing better than working hard and earning what you get. There's no better feeling. There's no better feeling than earning the praise of your mother and father when you do something great, and that you really deserve that honor and praise, because the honor and praise you don't deserve just feels empty. And anything you see about that on social media, when people get praised for doing nothing, they feel like people just are lying to them, and that doesn't feel good. It feels good to earn it.